world you live in is a sugar-coated topping. There is another world beneath it, the real world. And in that world, you have to learn to pull the trigger. What is up, everybody? Welcome to PCP Movie Night. Welcome to the penultimate episode of ActionFest 2024. And we are finally talking about one of my favorite movies of all time, Blade, starring Wesley Snipes and Stephen Dorff, Chris Christopherson. It's written by David S. Goyer, who also wrote Batman Begins, which we'll be talking about next week. It's also directed by Stephen Norrington, who did such classics as The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Anyway, don't hold that against him. Blade is a fantastic movie. I've been waiting to talk about this one forever. I am very surprised that we have not done this one yet, but now here we are to talk about the cinema achievement, the movie that paved the way to the MCU. Everybody says X-Men, Spider-Man. It was started and sparked the superhero renaissance that was about to really kick off with 2008's Iron Man and then 2012's Avengers. But it all starts here, in my opinion. Actually, it starts the year before with Spawn and then moves into Blade, where it shows Spawn kind of done right, like a dark superhero movie. Anyway, I'm rambling already. Trust me, it's going to happen all night long. But let's bring out the panel. We got Jelani in the house. What is up, my man?
Blade! Man, that's what's up. I'm good. It's good to be here and talking about this awesome movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of awesome, it's Brooks. How you doing, man?
What's up, man? You know, to say there's more dangerous things out tonight than vampires.
Like what?
Like me.
You
I
don't
like to
sound
imagine
here
that line being delivered in like the nerdiest kind of ways, like a teenager from The Simpsons saying it like, "There's more dangerous things out tonight than vampires."
Yeah. Fuck me. No, you go suck on this, right? All right. We also got Joe Corallo in the house. What is up, my man?
It's true. I'm coming at you live from West Palm Beach, Florida, while I'm visiting my grandparents.
So. Hell yeah. I thought something looked different about the background. I was like, Joe, did you move? Right? Did you hook up? Oh, you're just at your grandparents.
Yeah, no, I'm at my grandparents. It's very nice. My grandma made me French toast this morning, and then we watched The Price is Right together.
Is Drew Carey still doing The Price is Right?
Yeah.
He's going to do that until they pull
him. As old as Bob Barker was.
Yep. He's like, I'm set, dude. I'm set now. You get the Price is Right gig or the Wheel of Fortune gig, you're set, right? Speaking of being set for life, it's the missing link himself. What is up, Steph?
What's going on, fellas?
Happy to have you here.
I like that. It sounds very nice, actually, Joe, having French toast with your
yeah, it's very nice. And then I watched Nobody, the Bob Odenkirk movie with my grandpa earlier too. That was very sweet. Yeah,
well,
that
Joe,
was
I'm
good.
Glad you're having a great time.
I like that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's how hot is it? How hot was it today?
It's too hot, and they keep the temperature in here too hot, but whatever. It's fine.
Yep, exactly. All right. So let's talk about this movie, Blade. It debuted in 1998. And I think at the time, a lot of people, I remember I went and saw this movie in the theater. I was super stoked for this movie because I was the only person in my friend group who was a fan of Blade, right? Mm-hmm. I was first introduced to Blade during the Midnight Suns crossover in the early 90s with Ghost Rider. And they had the Spirits of Vengeance and the Night Stalkers series. And the Night Stalkers had Blade in it. And I fell in love with that character. He was in the Spider-Man animated series. I liked that. And then when this movie came out, I was ready because I love vampire movies. I love Marvel Comics. I love superheroes. So this movie is like designed and made for me. Does anybody else hear that interference? This movie was designed and made just for me is what it felt like, right? This movie came out in 1998. I'm 17 years old. I remember watching this trailer and just being so freaking hyped. Like the time lapse of the moon rising, the sun going down, and just it had this like cool kind of chic aesthetic. This is before Matrix. This is before Underworld. This is before X-Men. This looked kind of new at the time. There were things that had been kind of had some of that aesthetic before, like Dark City and even The Crow, but this was like a superhero movie in the 90s that took itself and its source material very, very seriously and changed up some of that source material to actually influence the comics in a positive way. Wesley Snipes is a godsend for this movie. They initially were wanting LL Cool J to play Blade, and then he was developing Black Panther. That fell out, and he had expressed interest in Blade. They got Steve Norrington on because he had done a movie called Death Machine, which I never even heard of until last night when I did the Horror Fest reveal, because it's one of the movies that Dylan's doing. So I've never even seen that movie. The only Steve Norrington movies I've ever seen are this one and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and League sucks, but this movie is glamorous. I loved this movie when I first watched it. I was obsessed with it that year for Halloween, because I think this movie came out in August. That year for Halloween, I was Deacon Frost. I was ready. I was all in. I loved everything about it. There was a Strange Tales imprint that Marvel was trying to do at the time, and they had like a 3-issue Blade series, I think by Don McGregor, if I remember correctly, that never finished, but I got all of that stuff, and I've been obsessed with this character since the Night Stalkers, Midnight Sun stuff, but in particular since this movie. And it boggles my mind that Marvel's never been able to get this translation into comics correctly. There's always something off about it, right? But it does, to me, respect the original Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan creation, because this is a Blade who shit talks, but he's a little bit more stoic in nature. Wesley Snipes is a martial arts awesome. I mean, like the wide shots, he's doing it, very little stunt work. It works. This movie oozes style. Deacon Frost is amazing. Chris Christopherson is amazing. It's got funny moments, but it does have a very serious tone to it, and it reaches a little deeper than I think a lot of people give it credit for. Plus, Brooks can attest to this. That soundtrack, I listen to it all the time. You know what I'm saying? All the time. So I love this movie. It's one of my favorites. What about you, Jelani? What do you think about Blade?
Man, this movie it's transcendent. It's like descriptions like The Matrix, things like that. You never really expected a movie like this. I worked at the movie theater when this came out. I think I was 19, something like that, when this came out. So I was about this life. Every chance I was at work, I was in that theater in some form or fashion, watching a scene from Blade after I'd seen it like 2 other times. It's visually stunning. You're right. Wesley Snipes is amazing. He's a fantastic martial artist. He knows his craft. Stephen Dorff says fuck a lot. Now, I've not counted how many times he says it. He says a lot in this film. It's very nice that you can get like a superhero rated R movie. It's raining blood in the first 10, 15 minutes of this movie. It's so cool. It's one of these just very stylish movies. Like I think they're in New York, but then sometimes I think they're in Korea or something. And then other times they're in Russia. It goes back and forth. It's very like Eurocentric, very Eurocentric. Hell, it has Udo Kier in it, and he's one of the greatest actors of our time. He's in Suspiria. And it's such a fun film, on top of it being very dark, very brooding. The Blade series should have continued, but that abomination happened, and they just couldn't do it. And
they almost made a Blade 3.
Yeah,
almost.
They did. It was close. Yeah. Like Blade 2 amped it.
Initially, I thought you meant that Spike TV series starring Sticky Fingers, which I really love.
I know you love.
I'm just saying.
I'm aware you love Sticky Fingers. But yeah, this is a great film. I really love watching it. Every time I've watched it probably 20 times. I don't know. It's been a lot since it's come out, and it's kind of like Die Hard for me. I've seen it at least. No, it's been a few years since I've seen this. I'll take that back, because Die Hard I watch every year. But this is close. This is very damn near close because I made up for it a few times because this was in the theater for like it had to have been like 2 or 3 months. As popular as it was, in some form or fashion, it was in the theater doing something, making moves, and I liked it. I liked it a lot, and that's all I can say about it.
Well, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Very, very, very nuanced. I liked it. No, I mean, and no, I feel the same way you did. I loved it then. I was obsessed with it. Every time I watch this movie, I love it. Like, I owned it on VHS. I owned it on DVD. I owned it on Blu-ray. In fact, the Blu-ray I have is not even like the good one with all the special features. This is the Canadian release because this was available before the American release. And so, I bought it as soon as I could. Like straight up. I just loved it. I mean, so I need to upgrade. But nowadays, the cheapest way to get it is with the trilogy set, and which is so odd to me because there's no
third one.
There's no third Blade. What about you, Brooks? What do you think about Blade overall?
Well, I remember this movie. This is a movie like when it came out, it was the hotness, at the time. Like it was a movie everybody was talking about it. I was familiar with Blade just from the Spider-Man cartoon. That was the only thing I knew him from. And I remember watching this movie and I really liked it. I enjoyed it a lot. And the rewatch, I still do like it's the ride. This movie is a ride, and you can't help but enjoy yourself. Even seeing like a lot of the glaring flaws in it, it's like it doesn't really matter. It's still Blade. Blade is all about the experience. And if they did make a third movie, they should get Dominic Purcell to play Dracula. And they should have Blade team up with Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel.
Yeah, what if they had Parker Posey in
success?
Yeah, if only that was a thing. All right, Joe, what about you? Blade, what do you think about
it? I'm excited to talk about the second best Blade movie tonight. I really, I enjoy it, quite a bit. As you were saying before, it led to a lot of, movies. Like, it was really one of the first to do an aesthetic that just wouldn't go away for over a decade, which was really interesting. And yeah, again, that scene with the bullets flying, and dodging that's what the Matrix did. No one gave a fuck. The Matrix does it a year later, that everyone's like, can you believe someone finally did this really cool thing with bullets? And it's like, yeah, I can. I saw it last year, you fucking asshole. But yeah, it's really, really good. As especially for a comic book movie, just the fact that this came out a year after Batman and Robin, right?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
97 was
a year like that. Oh god, you see that, and then this is the next incredible. What a difference! What just a chasm of difference between those two.
Batman and Robin was like comic book movies getting shot, and Blade was like somebody putting the resuscitators on it.
Yep.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And Spawn was those resuscitators.
Yeah.
Spawn was the first time they did it and it didn't work. Blade was the second time and it started coming back to life. You get the beep, beep.
God, but no, it's yeah. We'll get into it as we continue.
All right. What about you, Steph? What do you think overall about Blade?
I didn't see this in theaters. I had just turned 10 when this came out in theaters. But I'm pretty sure I saw it on pay-per-view shortly, as soon as it hit. I remember my uncle being like, you want to watch Blade, Dick? I'm like, what's Blade? He's like, it's a superhero. Because he knew I liked comic books. But I didn't realize I had seen Blade in Spider-Man, the animated series, years earlier. But he was in it so briefly, he was just a character, he didn't resonate in my mind. So when I saw the movie, it was blown away, Before Robert Downey Jr. influenced Iron Man, they changed the character of Iron Man to suit more, he's quippy, he's a funny guy. Before Neo had the black long trench coat, before the X-Men had the leather battle gear, Blade did all that shit first,
He did.
just I mean, all said it best. I'm just reverberating it. This movie is a turning point. This the style, the dialogue. It was something different, and it still stands the test of time. For this movie to have come out in '98, look at certain other movies that came out around the same time. They're very dated. This movie's aged quite well, and that's the best. Like Joe said, we'll get into it, but yeah, I love this movie.
Yeah,
And
me too. Oh, go ahead.
your point, the second being the second, Blade 2 and Blade 1, I struggle with because I like them for different reasons, So one day I might
same
think
thing.
like,
Yeah.
and then on other days it's like Blade 1 is hitting me for me more,
Yeah,
I wish they would have made it Blade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to. Blade 2 is as good, if not better, than the first Blade.
Yeah.
I would say,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there was something so special about this first Blade movie, and we wouldn't
Yeah.
have Blade 2 without Blade 1. And Blade 2, and we'll get into it at another time, but it does have some heavy reliance on CG that doesn't really work. But not saying that this movie doesn't, because it totally does.
Yeah.
So, in fact, if there's one
Yeah.
thing I can, chisel out about this movie is that, but we'll get to that. So let's talk about these performances. I got my favorites. It's everybody in the movie. So I'll let you guys go first, and I'll just pick up the sloppy seconds because I'm cool with that. Sloppy seconds and Blade is better than first choice in a lot of movies we cover here. So what about you, Jelani? What's a performance you want to highlight?
Let's see. I'm gonna be mean. I'm gonna take Wesley Snipes. Why not? Because
Yeah.
I mean, it's Blade,
That's fair.
and he is my favorite character in Blade. And he's you said it correct. He's very stoic, and he also has funny moments. He does break character a couple of times. I love what is it? The most famous line in the freaking movie.
What, some
Some
motherfuckers always want to ice
always-
skate uphill?
There you go.
What the
It's
fuck
so
are you out
nice.
your damn mind?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a good one.
I love that.
That's my
That's when
favorite.
he breaks character when he gets shot at by the cops.
The only time he breaks his like super stoic character is that one fucking.
Yeah.
Yeah. You lost your damn mind. And it's so, I don't know, the way he portrays the character, he's there to kill vampires. That's his only motivation. Vampires killed his mom, made him the way he is. He's going to kill every last one of them. And you're nothing but to me but another dead vampire. He has so many cool lines. His weapons are so bonus. I'm sorry, we'll get to the style and structure of it, but good grief. I mean, if you had an arsenal for Blade, he had the tools to kill some vampires. He could even beat them hand to hand. The hand-to-hand combat skills are off the charts. I love his comedic role where he basically, when he's fighting Deacon Frost, and he chops him up and turns around and sees that his hand has grown back, and he's like, and he just words it out.
What?
It's so funny to me to see it every time. I don't know what it is, and I don't know. Just his whole personality is just fire in this movie. He's exactly what you portray as a very pissed off vampire hunter.
Yeah.
And it works well for him.
I think it's his best role.
Yeah.
I really do. This is a role that he cherished. He was super into and became so into it that even if they would have done a Blade 3, I bet he would have been difficult to handle on
Yep.
set.
I believe that.
If
Yeah.
they did. That being said, if anybody here, I can't figure out where the static's coming from. So if anybody has a phone near them, please just kind of move it away from you. Anyway, Brooks, what about you? What's a performance you want to highlight?
My character, I've always liked this character, and it is Quinn, who is like the frat bro vampire.
Donald Logue, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I love his he has this arc throughout the movie where Blade just keeps almost killing him, but just he manages to get away at the last second. It's like Blade is like torturing this guy, and like he kind of deserves it. Like he's like a real shitheel kind of guy. He's like one of those guys. Like he's a frat boy basically. He's a vampire frat boy, and like out of all these vampires like in this little group of Deacon Frost, like. They're kind of like representations of how like youth culture was seen at the time. And like, you can definitely see like, where Quinn came from, like, the kind of archetype that he's based on. But it's also a lot of fun. Like, it's just fun watching him. Like, he keeps getting fucked up. He keeps getting his hands cut off. He's burned up, and he just keeps going till that last. They finally give him the tragic.
Dude, I love it. From the very beginning, when it's all set up perfectly, where he's like, thought I'd try fire for a change.
I love when he pins him to the wall and he does the Kevin McAllister.
Yeah, he does.
Yes.
We use
Yeah.
that on Robbie Live a lot. When we get a super chat, we use that one a lot. I love that bit, man. And like, he's getting head in the club. I remember being 17, being like, what's going on here? This movie is so dirty, man. It's great, right? And I love the whole, like, I got two hands and I got my both hands back. I don't know which one to kill you with. He takes that motherfucker out so quick, dude. And it's like a build up, takes him out. Like, he's finally had a fucking enough. Frost, little errand boy. I fucking love him. I'm glad that you brought him up. Joe, what about you? What's performance you want to highlight?
I mean, oh God, again, there are too many almost, but like Chris Christopherson, Whistler. I think he's so fucking good at this. It's crazy how good he is, and just the juxtaposition between him and Blade, that they are. You needed him to pull it off, and he does. Of like, these are two people that under any other circumstances wouldn't even have a reason to talk to each other, let alone be in each other's lives like this. And to be able to play off two characters that both come off so radically different from each other, but you also get that there's genuine care and respect for each other there, is really hard to pull off. And I think this kind of goes into some of the elements that you might have been bringing up earlier, Robbie, of like the depths that the movie goes in that it doesn't get credit for. And I think that in particular is something that no one really brings up when talking about this movie. And I feel like it's such an important part of it. Yeah. But, I would also add that Gerald Akamura is one of the uncredited vampires that shows up at the end and gets killed. All that spoilers, sorry. But he is a like Hollywood legend that's been in like so many movies, including being the main villain really in Samurai Cop, which is one of the best worst movies ever. Okay, so like that guy, and this time when I watched it, when he showed up, I was like, "Oh, it's the fucking Samurai Cop! It's the Samurai Cop!" I like it. It's what a treat! What a treat to revisit this. But yes, it was a wonderful time.
The stuff you're talking about with Whistler and Eric, man, there's two moments that like really, like this movie doesn't get the credit for these kind of things, but when Blade is taking his serum and he has to hold on to Whistler's hand, and Whistler can't look at him, he can't see him go through it, but he's like there for him. And then when Eric finds Whistler's body, and he can't look at him, and there's so much said about their relationship, like beneath the dialogue, you know what I'm saying? Like through action, through little nuances like that. And most superhero movies do not do that. Everything has to be fully explained, fully developed. There would be a flashback. If the MCU made this movie, there'd be a fucking flashback, where we see like we have a montage, like a Karate Kid montage or some shit like that.
Whistler training Little Blade.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need that. Steph, what about you?
Yeah.
What's a performance you want to highlight, Steph?
I'm going to give Stephen Dorff to you, even though I just want to highlight, he has one of my favorite lines in the movie where he's like talking to his crony. And he's like, yeah, he tosses it in the air, he catches it in here. He's like, shut the fuck up. I think that's such a great
fucking bit, dude. I love it.
But he's just such a cool bad guy in this. But I will say my favorite character is the doctor chick. not only is she a
No
babe,
bush,
but
right? Woo.
Yeah,
yeah,
Karen.
she holds her.
Karen.
I didn't realize she was
Karen.
president. That's why I've always thought. I didn't realize until today that she was in Dead Presidents as the younger sister, and then she was the doctor. So I was like, I've always had a crush on her, but she has like a grit to her. You know, she does feel out of place in certain situations, but like she's never like, has like that damsel in distress where she can't hold her own, you know. To kind of be thrown into situations that she's thrown in so quickly and to adapt to them, you know, it seems like she was a very adaptable person. But yeah, you know, she just kind of gets thrown into the fray of Blade in his world, and I mean, she does have a lot going against her, so she's kind of like, fuck it, you know, what else do I have to lose? But she doesn't fold under pressure, you know. She feels like a very strong character, to kind of just be taken out of her world, thrown into this crazy shit. So I'll highlight her.
Yeah,
And
she's great as the audience's viewpoint in order to like deliver the exposition for this world, right? You know, and this is a common trope in early superhero movies, right? But she's not a love interest. Like you said, she's not a damsel in distress. She actively chooses to be a part of this world, knowing that she's in danger now, even though Blade and Whistler just want to like, you know, good luck. Hope you make it. She's actively working. She's working on a better serum. She makes a cure. She develops a fucking cure. In the first Blade movie, there's a cure for pure bloods, right? By the way, that moment where she tells Frost, where'd you get that scar? Udo Kier has a scar too. That was the first time I really noticed it in this movie, but I was like, Udo Kier has a scar. Damn.
You're making it sound like I'm already dead.
Why are you ruining this movie for me? No.
Yeah, right? No, nothing will ruin this movie for me.
No.
Not at all. I'm glad you left me Stephen Dorff. I love Stephen Dorff in this movie. He did not really want to do it. He did not like superhero movies. He didn't like big budget movies. He didn't like commercial films. That's not the direction that Steve Dorff was trying to take his career in, but he was convinced to do this. And because of the darkness and the tonal difference between this and the serious nature, he was more encouraged to sign up, but he modeled his performance off Jack Nicholson's Joker. And you can kind of see it. He's like, that's why he is not a physical threat to Wesley Snipes at all.
At all.
But neither is Joker to Batman. But there's something about him where he feels like he's a little bit more ahead of Blade in the movie, right? Mm-hmm. And he's connected to the main character that I really want to talk about, which is Gaetano Dragonetti, played by Udo Kier, the German actor that we've already talked about. You ball me. He's so fucking amazing in this movie, dude. Like, he's in there for so little, but every time he's in there, it works. And I remember vividly this moment. I'm watching this in the movie theater, and in front of me, there are these two dudes. Or maybe it's a dude and a chick, I don't remember, but they're right in front of me. And that scene happens when Deacon's listening to the music, and he's got the computer running to try to decode the blood scrolls and all that shit. Yeah, that shit, right? And he comes in there and he's talking to him, and he's like, damn it, Frost, I'm talking to you, right? And he slaps the shit out of him, right? This dude in front of me just like goes, damn, he just got bitch slapped, y'all. And like screams it out in the fucking theater, man. And it works. Stephen Dorff brings this like feral look, right? When he like scrunches up his face. And I'll be honest with you, I think Stephen Dorff's pretty hot in this movie. Udo Kier, though, is that voice, that presence. It's in every movie, even the shitty ones he's in, like Ultraviolet. Like, he's good in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love seeing that dude. And that's why the one disappointing thing to me about Dario Argento's Suspiria is that you don't actually hear his voice, because he sounds like, well, let me tell you about witches. I have a friend. Like, it's just so silly. But yeah, absolutely. The style and structure of this film. Let's talk about that. This movie, I say this too often, but this movie oozes style. It really does. One of the main things I love about this movie is the style. I love the editing of it, right? I love how we see the night turn to day, right? I love the attention to that detail, because a lot of vampire movies, sure, there'll be daytime scenes, there'll be nighttime scenes, but I don't think of many like Blade that really lead you into the transition. Like Near Dark kind of feels the same way. I think that this took the best inspiration from the best vampire movies, like the best, more serious aspects of Fright Night. That may seem weird to say, but Near Dark, Lost Boys, the special effects were done by the dude who did Lost Boys, right? Like the practical effects.
Wow.
The CG is pretty bad. CG is pretty bad. It was low budget. They had a low budget, and they didn't have a lot of time, and they really overextended, right? And there's actually an ending where Deacon's supposed to turn into this like actual giant glob of blood god, right? And on the DVD and the Blu-ray, there's the deleted scene, and it looks bad, and the audience didn't like it, so they reshot it, and it's better with the ending that it has now, where you see more of Steven and Wesley like together actually fighting. But that's where the CG really starts losing me. Earlier in the film, there's some moments that kind of, but it doesn't bother me as much. But the practical effects really work. I love the look of the vampires. I love Pearl's makeup. That's a puppeteering thing. That's not CG at all, right? I do hate that they had the fart in there, and then Wesley has to be like, that's a little whatever. But in a Marvel movie, there would have been 3 farts. You know what I'm saying? An MCU film. But I love the style, and I actually think the movie is written very well. Every time I watch it, it's like, okay, this is a typical kind of superhero story, right? And it's structured in a way similar to most superhero movies, but in 1998, this was this kind of set that formula that proved to be very successful for films. And I also love that it didn't start with the origin, right? It starts with Blade being Blade, and then we eventually learn about Blade. We don't need to start from the very beginning and build up and this and that and show Blade getting, taken by Whistler as a kid. And like, we get to learn that in the background, and that's nice. But I love the movie, and I love the action scenes, all the fighting. It's real. Wesley Snipes knows what he's doing. He knows karate and a few other martial arts. He is performing the shit out of this role. They're using that widescreen lens. They're not cutting too quickly. This is how you shoot an action movie. The action scenes look very Hong Kong, right? They look very Kung Fu cinema. And I think that really helps this excel in the action scenes over even something like Blade 2, where I think they use a little bit too much CG in the action sequences in particular. But the CG here is pretty rough. It's pretty rough, but I'm not going to allow that to affect my enjoyment of this film. What about you, Jelani? Style and structure, what do you think?
I mean, I love this movie as well as far as the style goes. It's, like I said before, it's shot in different locations, but it still feels very Eurocentric. I don't know what it is. I like the Hong Kong feel of it as well as far as the action scenes. I love his costume. I like how it's set up, like it's functional. He has everything he needs, like right there, even the gigantic ultraviolet light, which I'm pretty sure he's just hooking onto the back.
Still heavy, but you're so big.
So he's got his equipment. He's ready to go. I love the bike. I hate the bike wasn't shown enough in this.
The bike is great. Do you remember that Marvel Legend figure that came with that bike? That's dope, man.
That is nice. They show a lot more in 2, I think, more so than this one. But the bike is very sweet.
And his fucking charger is badass, dude.
That is.
Like, honestly.
Yeah, his whole setup, everything about the warehouse, their hideout, it's amazing. I'm like, I cannot believe that they, were able to get the shots and things and the locations that they got on the budget that they had. Now, of course, yes, the CGI is terrible. It's absolutely crap. I do like the exploding EDT or whatever that stuff is that they stuck in them to explode.
Oh, you're talking about like the Big Trouble scene? I always think of that as the Big Trouble scene with the exploding heads in the hallway or whatever.
I love it, man. I don't know. It's just
to the North Star shit.
Yeah. But it's okay. I mean, it makes sense that it would explode some vampires and the way it kills Lamagra. I like that scene. I mean, it's terrible, but you can tell he's not there, but it still looks good to me. I don't like how the vampires like turn into flame, like towards the end of the movie when he's like actually killing them with his bare hands and stuff, and they're like burning up, or the way they burn up, it just looks bad. That looks terrible. When they pull out of the mouths during the ritual, and like they pull out of the mouth and like kill the vampire,
It was
it's-
rushed, man, and they didn't have enough money.
It looks cheap. It looks bad. Like it visibly.
At least
like,
it looks better than video games at the time.
True.
Looks slightly
Very
better than video games at the time. But I remember watching this movie for the first time and being amazed that you could see the fingers come around the mouth and rip them out and shit. You know, but now we're spoiled. We're spoiled with CG now.
We are spoiled rotten. It's terrible, but because it looks great. You want it to feel great too, but it doesn't feel great. But the action scenes are so cool, it makes up for it. So I don't know, just everything about it is fantastic, and Wesley Snipes portrays it so well while he's being filmed. Anyway,
yeah.
I mean, even the scene where he towards the end where he's like he pulls the sword and it drags to the bottom. He makes the circle after all of them explode around him.
Oh, it's so dope,
that shot, bruh. You got me, bruh. That's it. There's so many little scenes though that
even the odd choice to have the CG sunglasses that he catches in midair.
Yeah.
What a badass moment. Then the music comes
awesome.
in.
Bruh.
Bruh.
There's one scene that makes me mad.
He kicks that fucking vampire that's on the ground and he fucking slices up. Oh my God. I love it.
That was awesome. I'm
It's
sorry.
so fucking cool.
He's kicking their asses with his bare hands. I love it. That's what happens when he drinks blood.
He rips that motherfucker's throat out and throws it at the other dude,
he
man.
does. Oh, so clean. But
He was holding on
scene,
to that for 5 steps. Man.
Yeah. There's a scene in here that I cannot stand, though. I don't know why. It bothers me to this day every time I watch it. It's the little girl that's with Deacon Frost, and he's got the nail on her throat and stuff like that. And he throws her into traffic. And you can tell that's a full-grown woman that they're throwing into traffic. And I'm like, dude, because she's got like bushy hair and a long pants, but the kid's legs are like way longer than they were originally. Like she's taller than Deacon Frost when he throws her. And I'm like, that pisses me off every time. I was like, you couldn't find like a, I don't know, little person or someone that's like this kid's size to be a stunt double. It was weird. But it throws me off every time.
Dude, I also hate, I do hate the idea that this motherfucker puts on some sunscreen and stands
there's like some dumb shit. Man, that's one of them.
Yeah,
that is, but it kind of makes up for it a little bit when they go into the direct sunlight and they're at least wearing the fucking bicycle, like the motorcycle helmets. I don't know. Yeah,
that makes more sense that they would be covered.
I mean, if we can vibe with the idea that Spike and Buffy is driving around with foil on his fucking windows and black spray paint, I mean, we can, I mean, come on, right? What about you, Brooke? Style and structure on Blade.
Well, like this movie does, like, it has that style, and this movie like influenced a lot that came after it, really. Like the the black leather trench coat became like a huge thing for a while, and it kind of started around the time that Blade came out. And like I like the character design, like the way they like Blade's, I guess, costume, and the fact that he's got this body armor despite the fact that he doesn't really need it. But he does come in handy when those cops shoot at him that one time. So I guess maybe it is a little more useful. But I don't see Blade fighting many gunmen in his quest to destroy vampires. But you never know. There could be gun-wielding vampires too. But yeah, there's like this movie is a lot of fun, but there are a couple of things that just really annoy me about it. Like the sunscreen thing was one, but the main one is the whole mother reveal at the end. I'm like, that's so fucking stupid they put that in there, because he was like a baby. He wouldn't remember her. And she called him Eric? Like, did she name him like right before she died? The whole mother thing was so fucking dumb. I'm like, why'd they put that in there? They put that in there to get some cheap drama in there. But despite these flaws, it's still a fun ride. And that's I think that's the main thing with Blade, is like you just gotta sit back and enjoy and just have fun with it.
I dig everything you're saying, but I disagree about the mother thing, because I think the mother thing is tied into it's tied into the theme of the movie.
Well, and they should have had her die later on. Like, you tell me Blade never tracked down his mother's remains? It just doesn't make sense. It's dumb.
Well, to back up your point here, these are the kind of decisions people make in movies that are stupid, like David S. Goyer, where it's like, I'm going to have a reveal, and the key to this reveal is that we now know that the character we're rooting for is a lot less competent than we thought, because he's clearly been at this for a while. And so you're telling me he's been at this for this long and was incapable between his network and all these people to get a very basic piece of information like that? Like, that's bad. That's not well thought out.
Well, Frost for years, but he hadn't met Frost, so it's like, it's not like he would be able to withhold stuff from him. I don't know. It didn't seem like him and Whistler where
so I don't know.
They had a good operation, but they didn't.
It's like two guys robbing corrupt cops, you know, trying to like fund this operation against this vampire nation that I feel has been integrated into human society for centuries, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
But, you know, it's wobbly.
I get it. It's wobbly, but I don't care. And I think it's tied. And I think it's tied into the theme. I think it's tied into the theme. Anyway, I like it. Plus, his mom is fucking hot, dude.
He's hot, dude.
Sure.
He's hot.
Sure. No one's arguing.
But it is weird when she's all like on him, and I'm like, whoa.
Back up.
Yeah,
back up,
that's your fucking son, man.
Yeah.
And maybe he has a memory of her because of the vampire connection. He's a daywalker. We don't know what a daywalker's like. We don't know their psyche, right, Brooks? Come on.
That's true.
What
So
about
how
you?
would
Joe?
she even know it was him?
Yeah, no shit. Like, how does she even know? What about you, Joe? What are you thinking about the style and structure?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with the structure. The structure is just Batman 89. It's guy who's already established, girl gets sucked in it, so that way he can kind of explain how it all happened. She ends up getting involved with the main antagonist, and then it all leads to a final confrontation where the main antagonist dies at the end.
Fuck, it is Batman 89.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just like the Crow's kind of Batman 89 in a way.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
but it's better. This is better than both of those movies. I'm sorry, I don't care.
It's definitely not better than Batman 89, but
I would say it is.
Yeah.
That's you're crazy. No, it's I can't even begin to entertain that idea. It's also aged better because there's not really terrible CGI, but this is style. The style is where it stands out, but a lot of which is like a mixed bag. Like 80% of the movies this inspired are terrible. But no, it's and also the point of the trench coat stuff. I'm glad. Was it Brooks? Did you mention that with the trench coats? Because this again, a year before Matrix, and everyone acted like it was the Matrix that did that, when it absolutely did not. Like, that's just another thing that's like, this is you're all crazy. But no, I mean the style too. It feels like David S. Goyer watched Batman 89 and like Mortal Kombat and was like, I can like do this, and you know, it's that there's clearly Wesley Snipes was inspired by certain movies that he you know, added to flesh out, you know, his character, and there you go. But yeah, it's like we were saying before, the cast I think really helps elevate it. Because yeah, I mean, even like the vampire deaths in it, it's like they're not that much better looking than like Buffy the Vampire Slayer on the WB. It's a little like, all right, I guess we're doing this where a person suddenly turns into a poorly CGI'd skeleton that bursts into flame. But yeah, I mean this movie, I think, part of the style and structure that really, I think the way it's set up that wins you over is, I would argue the best scene is the opening, the blood rape scene. I think
It's a dope scene.
it's like a perfect opening. It introduces you to the world very well. It's very stylized. The music, which we'll get into later, but like everything about it is basically perfect. The opening, and then I think it kind of like it's not like it tanks from there, but it's like it kind of like peaks in the opening scene, and then it's like almost as good throughout. But like that opening, like nails it, and then it can kind of, it doesn't necessarily, but like it could kind of coast on that for a while as a movie. But yeah, it's, you know, having that, and then again, like the plot is stupid. Like this, like, I'm a bad vampire. I'm literally Jack Nicholson who kills all the other gangsters, become the head gangster. I'm just Batman 89. Like when it does that, and again, Batman 89 absolutely does it better. That whole setup, the coming in, you know, like, it's so perfect. Whereas, you know, and here it's fine, but I'm sure by design, it's like a grittier, messier kind of thing. But ultimately, it's Batman 89. So
Yeah, but I disagree. I think they did it better here. And you know what? It's my show, Joe. So I think I'm right.
You're fucking crazy.
You're fucking crazy, dude. Well, I can't.
Literally, if we had a poll, forget it. You toast, Robbie.
Bro, who gives a shit, dude? If we had a poll, I bet most people like the new X-Men #1. So what the fuck do they know? You know what I'm saying, man?
No, they don't. No, they don't. If we had a poll, they would say they didn't like it. Are you kidding? Oh, yeah. People on the internet can't fucking wait to talk about how much they like something.
Yeah, people are going to like Batman 89 just because they're fucking trained and told to like it, man. I like to go a little bit against the grain here, Joe. That's what I like to do personally.
I know
but
you
it's
try
okay.
very hard, Robbie.
But valid points, Joe. What about you, Steph? What do you think about the style and structure?
So at the end of the movie, when he's in Russia, you know, he drops that cold line that he borrows from Whistler. He's like, "Did I catch you at a bad time, comrade?" But in Russian. He does like this little jacket thing where he's like, actually he's gonna pull his gun out, but doesn't. He like draws a sword on the ground. And I rewound that. I was like, why did you do that? Like, why? What's the point in acting like you're gonna pull your gun, but you're just using the other hand for? But I didn't care because it looked cool. You know,
it looks cool. Exactly.
This movie. It's cool, you know, the design, you know, it's got a very late 90s club style feel to it, you know, like between Steven Dorff and his club wear, like the suits, you know, everyone's pretty GQ too for the like late 90s aesthetic. I love Blade's the trench coat, how he's got the slit for his sword, just like in the back, like that's cool as fuck, you know, he just slides it right in, very sleek, very streamlined. I think it works. In terms of like the structure, it's a dude who feels like, you know, it's like he's like Magneto in a sense. He's like, why the fuck are we cohabitating when we're better than these people? You know, we should be on top. He got fed up with it and wanted to make his power play. For 2 hours, you know, this movie, it goes pretty well. You know, it's not until the end when we're like with the fighting scene with him and Deacon and the CGI is where I kind of start to like, all right, you know, so my interest starts to wane. But for the most part, you know, that's like the last 10 minutes. But, you know, the whole hour 45, hour 50 before that, I enjoy quite a bit. The opening is badass, but I don't think that's like the peak of the movie. I just think that was a great way of establishing the character of Blade.
What's the peak of the movie?
There's plenty about this, you know.
You can't have plenty of peaks. There's one peak.
I don't think it peaks at the beginning. I'll say that.
No, but then where does it peak? I'm genuinely curious where you think. I'm not trying to do something here.
Towards the end with the Deacon fraud, the CGI, that's where I'm kind of like checked out. Like, oh, okay, you know.
But there isn't like a moment or a couple of moments in it where it really like you're like, oh man, they fucking that was something.
Not for me. Not for me.
Okay.
You know,
For me, I think it baked after he drains Karen and then fucking goes on and like starts kicking ass. And then when he gets those fucking shades and takes out
Super
Quinn
Saiyan.
real quick, I think that's where it fucking. But I mean, I get what you're saying about the opening. The opening is great, but I think I do think there's a few peaks, but the peak to me is when he like fucking like at the end is like ready, and you know he's about to kick this motherfucker's ass, right?
Yeah, I just think it works, you know. The CGI doesn't really bother me when I keep in mind that this came out in '98 and was made for $45 million. I can easily dismiss the shitty CGI and the fact that it was a rush job because that was not the originally intended ending. So I don't let that bother me. I still think it's a badass movie. It's just cool and it works. So
I can let it bother me, but I don't care. I just want to show off my blade sword. Here's my blade sword right here. I got this from Bueller gave it to me. How cool is that? I got a blade sword
feature.
Yeah,
no, it does not. I got his fucking pig sticker.
Yes.
Anyway, let's talk about the music. So the score of the film is done by Mark, what's his name? Isham. I don't know what else he's done, actually. But I bet he's done a lot of stuff. Let's see. You think I'd be more prepared for this?
I think he's like, isn't he like a hip hop beats?
He did the 92 of Mice and Men. He did Fire in the Sky. Oh, that's cool.
Really?
He did Shortcuts, Made in America, The Getaway, Time Cop. He did Time Cop. He did Waterworld. He did The Net.
Okay.
Fly Away Home, Kiss the Girls, Blade, of course. After Blade, he did Varsity Blues, October Sky, Rules of Engagement, Trixie, Men of Honor, Save the Last Dance, Hardball. Man, this dude's done a lot of stuff. What's the last thing he did? Jesus, he's still working. He did The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, Nicolas Cage movie.
Oh shit.
Nice.
Yeah, I like the score. The score is
good. I like that.
Yeah, I think the score is very much leaning into 80s horror a little bit, but I don't know. There's something melancholical about the score that I really like. There's a somber, haunting nature to the score that makes me feel the loneliness of Blade's life. Like, I feel like Blade is a shielded, walled off, stoic, alone kind of guy. And that's why even his closest relationship, there's like almost a distance between them because they almost can't, neither of them can really allow themselves to care because they both have lost so much, even though maybe Eric doesn't remember it, or maybe he does because there's some kind of weird vampiric connection. But the score in the movie fucking rocks. I love it. I love that there's like strings, composed bits, but there's like a driving percussion throughout it as well. And there's also a synth element to it that really like harkens back to me to like classic vampire stuff, but feeling new. But then you got the soundtrack. Now, Brooks can attest, I owned the soundtrack and I listened to it all the time. The soundtrack starts with Mystical, Edge of the Blade, and that song fucking slaps. Then you got Gangstar, you got fucking KRS-One, you got D2E Down to Earth doing that song. I got more terms than a you, sticking it in. It's like a dead end. If it's a game, you can't win. Then you got the Wolfpack doing Gangsta Gangsta Bounce. Get off your ass and bounce. Most of these songs you don't hear in the movie, right? But then what I love about this soundtrack is the first half is all hip hop. And then it goes all like techno and dance, right? There is this like Busy Bone song that's awesome. It's like the one of those murder, 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 murder. That sounds like every song that Busy Bone is in, I know, but it's really great here. But then you got Struck by Lightning, which is the song at the end when he like finally has leveled up and he sucks the blood from Karen. He's like, oh, got struck by lightning. I think when they hit that moment, that drop is when he kicks the fucking dude and he flies up in the air. It's badass. You got the opening with the Confusion, the remix, the New Order song, You Just Don't Believe Me. Fucking dude, what a fucking great. Then you got DJ Crush doing that really cool chill kind of vibe, that boom, boom, boom. When you first get introduced to Deacon, when they're opening up the roof of the whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, I fucking love every bit of music that's in this movie and every bit of music that's not in the movie that's licensed to be on the soundtrack that's a part of the movie in some kind of ethereal manner. I fucking love the soundtrack and the score. What about you, Jelani? What do you think about the music in Blade?
You are correct. Everything you said was right on it, man. Because this music is absolutely perfect. In that part where you're saying when Deacon's like party, that party that man, it's great. And of course the music at the beginning. It builds tension and things like that. It's such cool soundtrack. The score itself is also great. It does have that melancholy. It is a very ominous beat that goes through the entire film. It goes really well. All the music works exceptionally well with this film. It makes the film memorable. That's what makes a film do what it's supposed to do. I forgot what movie we were talking about last week, where I was like, oh yeah,
Last
all that
Action
else
Hero.
change. Yeah, Last Action Hero. You have to have like one or two songs that are like bangers, like to the point where like a little kid now would understand where that came from, kind of situation. It's just, it has to be iconic, and Blade does that. Blade can do that. Last Action Hero didn't have to do that, but it's just, you needed songs with hooks that like
Last Action Hero had a really badass Alice in Chains song, and it had a really badass AC/DC song. So I don't know what the fuck you've been smoking tonight, man, but you're kind of, I don't know what you're stepping on, but you're stepping on it.
Something about Alice in Chains. I don't know. Anyway,
You do not talk shit about Alice in Chains, man. Come on.
It's okay, man. You'll be fine.
How about this one? Do you remember this one? I know you and Brooks remember this one. Fighting no war on the dark side. Trying to make it over because I can't hide. Gotta cross over to the light side to save my people. Y'all, seriously, smoke a fucking blunt tonight and listen to the Blade soundtrack. And by the time you get to track 4 and 5, you're just going to be feeling it. Trust me. It's going to be great.
All right. So be it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that at my grandma's.
Why not? It's medicinal in Florida. What about you, Brooks? What do you think about the music? I know you've heard it enough.
Yeah, it's like, I've heard the soundtrack. Like, I think a lot of soundtrack is music inspired by the movie Blade in a way, because like, a lot of it didn't make it in this movie, which I'm glad they didn't, just try and shove it in there pointlessly. But the score is pretty good. But really what stands out is like the techno stuff, the electronic stuff, like the stuff that was like of the time, because like that was an era when techno was kind of coming up. It was kind of like the new music that everybody was getting into, and like, rave culture and all that was starting to, become a thing. And, it is it's good. Like, it's very simple. Like a lot of techno is very simple, but it's catchy at the same time, and it does lend itself of a certain mood. And I think it's used very well in this movie. Like, I love all of how the techno is used. Like, it really like, it seamlessly works with the scenes, I think. So yeah, like a good soundtrack. I do kind of wish there are a few of those like soundtrack songs that they may have put in there, or at least like, in the ending credits that they didn't do. But, at least we got them on the soundtracks, on the CD. So, it's fine.
Absolutely. It's great that there's just not a scene where like he's driving and he's got the mystical song playing.
Yeah.
Or some shit.
Blade!
I'm
about me.
Blade.
Motherfucker rapping about me.
God damn it. That shit's so good. What about you, Joe? What do you think about the music in the film?
No, I mean it's great. I love the soundtrack, the score. I mean, like New Order. What is it? Apex Twins, I think, are on there, and she might be. We don't talk about them. But no, it's really good. And then like not only that, but like the soundtrack like charted, like was on the Billboard charts. Like it's really good. The fact that the soundtrack did at a time, where like it wasn't one of those soundtracks that like is just full of a bunch of like top 40 hits that it like kind of makes sense. Like, oh yeah, it would chart like it, and it charted like, you know, I was double checking. It made it to like 36. It peaked at, which is pretty high. I feel like for like a lower mid budgeted action movie of you know, a fairly obscure IP at the time. Like that's kind of crazy. And I think it went gold. Like it's like it really worked. And I imagine part of that is there were people that, you know, maybe didn't see the movie and just were like, oh man, this sounds great, and you know, picked it up. You know, so it's really good.
I love this movie so much. I had the soundtrack. I need to find it again and buy it on CD. I got the VHS. I got the Blu-ray. I need to get the DVD again because it's one of those New Line clamshell opening DVDs, which I'm nostalgic for at this point in my life. I have the novelization of Blade, right? Which is based, of course, on the original screenplay. And at the end of it, it's Whistler is the vampire he confronts in Moscow, which is crazy. Oh. And then allegedly they changed that, and that was supposed to be Morbius at the end of the movie. But then apparently they couldn't nail the rights, so they just abandoned that and went in another direction with Blade 2, which this movie, $45 million budget, as you stated, Link, it made $131 million. And 4 years later, we got the sequel. But this movie, DVD was brand new when this movie started releasing. And this was one of the highest selling DVDs at that time. Like everybody bought this shit and like everybody was into it. And I remember going to people's houses and they'd be like, you want to watch Blade? And I remember going to this dude's house who had like this big stereo system, and we watched this shit on DVD. It was the first time I ever watched a DVD, and it blew my fucking mind, right? In every drug dealer's house I went to from 1998 to like 2005, we would watch Blade. Like, I'm just saying, it was a common occurrence. This movie is it's a great big fucking deal. And Blade smokes weed because we find that out in the second one when I almost called him Daryl. What's his fucking name? The guy that played Daryl in Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Why can't I not remember? Norman Reedus. Norman Reedus,
tech dude.
Norman Reedus is like, you want to hit this B? And he's like, later. I thought that was the coolest thing, but that's another movie for another day. What about the music, though, Steph? What do you think about it?
I think you gents have all said it best. I think the soundtrack is iconic. I think I didn't really pay too much attention to the score, but I will point out a particular scene where I think the score resonated with me was when, you know, he's walking away from Whistler as he's fucked up and shit, you know. He like turns and like these violins start playing, or maybe it's a cello, I don't know. But some strings start playing. But it really adds to the emotion of that scene. So I think and the movie balanced quite a bit in terms of like dark humor and making you feel some shit or like a comedic moment. So I think the score added to that. So I applaud for that. But all around, great job. Like Brooke said, though, the soundtrack is where I think it shines the most.
That's fire.
It really does, dude. It's so fucking good. I mean, these dudes know. I know some of this. I know most of the soundtrack word for word. Like, it's just fucking like, and the instrumental songs I wrote lyrics to. Like that DJ Crush song, you know, that it's called Dig This Groove or something like that. And it gets like doom, doom, doom. It's like this cool, like chill kind of vibe to it. I wrote an entire fucking 3 verses to that. Brooks remembers this because he told me that I wasn't a good lyricist at the time. But that was one of those like, just being treacherous, rolling through your streets. So many false prophets trying to meet with your defeat. You remember that one? Yeah. Stay strong. Won't be long and someone will come through. And when it comes that day, the only question is what you do. Will you roll with it? Give kisses, give what she sends, or take a bow and play it low and miss out once again? It's your decision. You'll be missing, drunk as pissing, reminiscing, wrong provisions. Your visions always had you second guessing. Anyway, Jelani, we like to talk about the themes of these movies. We are the pop culture philosophers. We like to dive a little bit deeper, and we think there's a reason internally why we like the fiction that we like. What is this movie about to you? What's it speaking to you? What's its message, if you want to call it that? But we like to call it, what is the theme? What's the movie trying to say?
Mine is always you can never go home again. I keep forgetting her name. Nabush Wright's character in this.
Karen.
Karen.
How can you forget it when that creepy ass dude who's like?
Why does he go to a British accent after he's bitten and turned?
I
into a
don't know,
zombie?
man, but I know. Karen.
So
You never have second
That
thoughts
scene is-
about us.
yeah, she's living her normal life, doing her thing, and all of a
That
sudden,
dude's like
she's
the friend
attacked
from
by
fucking
vampires.
American Werewolf in London, dude.
Yeah, he really is. Yeah, he's slowly decaying and has a British accent now. It's just, yeah, yeah. You can never go home again. You can never be the person you were. Things are going to change. With Blade's mom, Vanessa, a lot of things changed, not for the better.
Oh, vampires are real now. Great. Love that.
Yeah. I love
how my life is going.
Yeah.
I
So
hate that for
fantastic.
you.
Yeah. And there's so many different things to see, like even the tiny one. Like Blade cannot go back to the original serums he was taking because it's building a tolerance. And he's getting that urge to kill. I mean, eventually he will the thirst will take him, and when it takes him, it won't stop. And so he knows this, and he knows he can't go back. He can't go back to those willy-nilly days where he was just killing homeless people for fun. It's a mission.
Fun.
Yeah. It's his change. And that's what I think this movie is about.
All right. What about you, Brooks? What's this movie speaking to you?
Well, I think like a big thing in this movie is like a kind of generational conflict and class conflict. You know, the Deacon Frost and his vampires, and you compare them with the the purebloods, this stuffy council of these like ancient, like kind of bastard vampires who just look down their nose at everybody else. I think they're like so much better than because they're pure blood. You only tons. Like the way he says it with such contempt. And Frost, that contempt is shared. Like, the younger generation is like, well, fuck you guys. You guys aren't better than us. Like, you've been hiding in the shadows. Like, why don't we just fucking, take over the world and get rid of you fuckers? And that's like kind of like there's a thing that's kind of gone throughout humanity is like, this whole generational conflict. Like every generation hates their kid, ends up hating their kids, and every set of kids ends up hating their parents. It's like this weird competition. It's like you don't really hate them, but there's just this kind of weird thing where we always feel like, oh man, kids these days they suck. They're all they're like techno music and wearing them shirts with big collars and shit. And it's just neither side is really right. But I think like the old school stuffy council is probably a little more wrong in this case. Like I'm kind of more on the side of Deacon Frost. Like, you guys are the past with the future.
Well, there is the matter of our offshore accounts, though. So,
Mm-hmm.
so
Just
we need to
take
get
their
to
money.
that. Any new business? Udo Kier is such a dick in this movie, right? One day you're going to wake up and find yourself extinct. Man, so many good lines in this movie. What about you, Joe? What do you think this movie's speaking to you?
I mean, again, it's what everyone's been talking about, but obviously there's very deep addiction themes throughout the movie, but also building on what Brooks was saying, with the generational divide sort of thing is, Blade himself as a day walker. The whole point of it is this sort of oh, this is something new. This is a new generation. This is a new thing that they have to deal with. And in a way, there's this generational divide with the vampires over how we deal with new threats. And I think that stuff, the generational gaps and themes really run heavy throughout. And even though these vampires, they age differently and stuff like that. Even though Deacon Frost might not technically be the youngest vampire, you know, we know there's so many of these like vampires that are uncredited we just have no idea about that come in these meetings, but he is this like youthful sort of thing. And I mean, even the like wearing like the motorcycle gear and the, you know, the helmets and all of that, it, you know, when they're taking this guy who's all in like a suit and like, it comes off as a very like visually generational gap sort of thing. And it's generational, but there's also like a class element to it too, I think, you know, where the elder sort of vampires are all these like stuffy suits and like Deacon dresses like a young guy, you know, like so.
Deacon's like a
So
Silicon Valley millionaire, right, or something like that. Like
yeah,
some kind of tech guy or something like that, right? Coming up.
If this movie came out 10 years later, he would have been in jeans with a sports jacket and a BlackBerry.
Yes,
so
like Lex Luthor in Batman versus Superman.
Please don't remind.
Oh God, but yeah, themes good.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the addiction one because that's a point of it too. Like, addiction is a theme I think in a lot of vampire fiction, and it's something that I don't think gets as looked upon as much as some of the sexual natures of vampires and things like that. But there is an addictive nature, and like even with Blade himself, right? He needs a stronger drug, which eventually he denies so that he can actually become what he's supposed to be. What about you, Steph? What's this movie speaking to you?
I wanted to talk on that whole generational thing real quick. You know, how every generation previously hates someone after them, except for the millennials. You know, every generation before us hated us, and then the generation after us hates us. So we're very distinct in that aspect. But what's the message, the theme? Don't take shit at face value. Dig a little deeper. You know, it's not this sugar-coated world that you think it is, you know?
Right.
You can paint a rotten egg gold, and it looks great. It's still rotten on the inside. So don't take shit at face value all the time.
That's true, man. Absolutely, right? So y'all are all on, like, a movie. You experiencing a movie is a subjective experience, right? That's what we love about, like, me and Joe can disagree about Blade versus Batman 89, and it's all in fun, and we're still homies at the end of the day because we know that both of us have our own opinions, and we both respect each other's opinions. I fucking hope. So anyway, but you're wrong in this instance, Joe. I'm sorry. But so anyway, and I know most people agree with me, but you know what? A prophet's never honored in his own land. So anyway, for me, I'm going to say this movie is about cutting off what made you who you are so that you can accept who you are and your purpose and move forward. Blade has a father figure in Whistler that it's painful to him to let him go, but he has to. But at that moment, he hasn't learned this lesson. He gives him the gun, he walks away, but he can't even look at him, right? They have this relationship, this connection, but Blade still feels alone. And at that moment, though, he can't actually even still make the connection to do it for Whistler. But he doesn't learn the lesson yet. He learns the lesson when he has to kill his mother, right? He's been holding on to his mother and the memory of his mother and the tragedy of her death and the unfortunate circumstances that led to him being this. It's an Aquaman type thing. He's like a half-breed. He feels between two worlds. He doesn't fit in the real world. He doesn't fit in the vampire world. He is truly alone, right? But he has this connection to his father figure, and he has this connection to his mother. He has to allow his father figure to die, and he doesn't know where to go from that. It leads him to defeat, honestly. But it's when he is able to overcome that connection to his mother, he's truly able to, like, that's why that line means so much to me when he says, I must release you. It's about cutting off the roots of your trauma. They may have led to who you are, but who you are is somebody capable of fulfilling your purpose. And that's the whole scene. Y'all understand the scene when he like cuts the roots of that fucking that plant?
Yeah, the plant.
So that plant is a hybrid plant, which represents and symbolizes him being of two different species, right? And something unique. And he cuts off those roots because his father figure's dead. And now he's got to like cut it off. When he kills his mom, it still symbolizes that even further. And at the end of it, he actually turns down the cure, right? So that he can continue his fight, because this is why he is there. Sometimes we feel alone. We all feel special. We all feel alone at times, right? Sometimes that strength within those moments is what you need to carry on. We are not what our past has. We are not our pasts, but our past has made us who we are today. It's our choice what to do with that going forward. We need to let go of those traumatic roots, if that makes sense. Maybe that's diving a little bit too deep, but whatever. Blade's my shit, dude. This dude gets high, fucking meditates, and then goes and slays some fucking vampires, man. This is my fucking dude. I fucking love it, dude. I want to be Blade for Halloween. I want a Blade costume. I wish I had a Blade costume right now. I already got the sword. That sword's heavy. I can't carry that shit around. Anyway, now it's time to rate the film. Out of 5 possible, you digs, you out there in the chat, what do you rate 1998's Blade? Because it's officially now been 5 years since the Mahershala Ali Blade has been announced. So I don't think that shit's ever going to happen. So this is going to be, this is what we got for now. Blade, 1998. You out there in the chat, what do you rate it out of 5, you digs? Jelani, kick us off here on the panel.
Yeah, that Mahershala Ali film, I give that like 2 you digs before it even comes out, before the first trailer even comes. It won't, but I'm going to give it a 2. This movie, though, however, I'll give this a 5. This is easily a 5. It is Blade. It's freaking Blade. It starts everything. Blade 2, spoiler alert, also is a 5. Actually, that's 5.69 because it does a little bit more than this movie. But this Blade, 5 all day.
All right, a perfect score from Jelani. What about you, Brooks? Where are you sitting?
Well, like this movie, like a lot, it's inspired by nostalgia. I realize because, like, you know, like I know this movie has its problems, but I still give it a 5 because of just, you know, how much of a fun ride it is. Like, you know, it's like I love all the lines, like even lines that are stupid, like the ice skate uphill line. Like every time I see that, like I remember that line, but every time I see him, like, what? Why did he say that? And like this time I'm like, oh, I see he's trying to kind of do like a Bruce Lee type thing. Like he's trying to say some kind of like philosophical shit with his one-liner. But like it's still a very eyebrow raising line, but you know, you still love it, you know, because it sounds cool because Wesley Snipes is saying it. And then he's like blowing this dude up into like a giant blood pool. And it's like, you know, it's the ridiculousness and like the dumber parts of this movie are like, you know, kind of like canceled out by just how awesome it is overall and just what a fun experience it is to watch. So yeah, I'd give this one a 5 because I know it would hurt your feelings if I did.
Here's the thing about that line at the end. I think the line works. That's the problem with the world. Some motherfuckers always want to ice skate uphill. The problem is Blade then immediately ice skates uphill. He has one more dose of that shit he's got to throw at Deacon Frost to blow him up, right? And instead of just throwing it successfully like he did all these other syringes, he has to throw it up in the air and do this fucking crazy ass fancy kick. What if he missed it? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if that's the one time Blade
it's like alternate ending of Blade where he misses it.
It just drops.
Magra like takes over the world.
I love the moment too where Deacon sees it like, what is this? Your precious serum? What's it feel like? Like your blood's on fire. Try it. Try some. You might like it. I love that bit. What about you, Joe? What do you give this movie out of 5 you digs?
It's very good. 4 out of 5 you digs.
Okay. That doesn't hurt my feelings. It's fine.
No, it's a very good movie. I really like it. I've seen it multiple times. If it's on halfway through, I'll watch it. It's because it's very, very good.
What about you, Steph? What are you thinking?
as good as this movie is, I'm gonna have to give it a 3 out of 5. I'm just fucking with you. This is a 5. This is a game changer. I watch. When Delaney said earlier that he's seen it 20 times, I was like, Jesus, I feel like that's kind of lightweight. You know, I feel like I've seen it way more than that. Like, this movie too, I watched quite a bit as a youth. So, yeah, I can put these on any iconic. They changed the game to it's a game changer. So I got to give it a 5.
Hell yeah!
Regardless of the.
No surprise to anybody, I'm giving it a 5. I fucking love this movie. I think it's great. I think it's better than Batman 1989. I think it's amazing. All jokes aside, I do love this movie. I think it's great. I think it's stylistic. I think it's very influential. I think it's Wesley Snipes' best performance. I think it's Stephen Dorff's best performance. I love this movie. I think it's Steve Norrington's best movie. I've only seen 2 of them. The other one I saw really blew, and that was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which we will probably never. I know that one day we're gonna fucking do it. That's just the nature of PCP movie night. One day we're gonna fucking do it. And Joe's gonna sign up for it. I see your face right now, but I know you'll be like the first one. Like, I'll do League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I know. I would do League of Extraordinary.
No, but I love the film, so I think it's great. I love the music. I love the style. I just every time I watch it, like I'm watching this movie last week, like on Tuesday night. And I'm by myself and I'm just watching this movie and I am smoking a little bit, but I'm not drinking or anything. I'm not like super fucked up and I'm just giddy. I'm giddy. I got this big ass fucking smile on my face or something, like I just got laid or just got a blowy or something like that. And I just felt so happy watching this movie. It was such a comfort. It's like eating macaroni and cheese.
This movie reminds me of like the Community episode, you know, where Troy like looks over to Abed and he's like, "You want to watch Blade tonight?" And Abed's like, "Yes." Like it doesn't even take him a second to respond. Like immediately, he's like, "Yes." That's what it feels like. This movie to me, it feels like anytime somebody's like, "Hey, you want to watch Blade?" I'll be like, "Yeah, dude. Fuck yeah, I want to watch Blade."
So that's a 5 from everybody on the panel except for Joe, who gave it a 4. And that's a very respectable score. I gave Iron Man a 4, and you know, I get it, man. You know, so I get it. I get it. This is not a fun house situation. I'm trying not to be bothered. Joe, I love you. I think you're great. I love having you on the show. Anyway, I'm just going to go breathe after the show for a while, for like a good solid 25 minutes. Just breathe intentionally, like fourfold. Anyway, so that's a PCP average of a 4 point. Let's just bump that up a little bit to a 9.69. How about that? We'll give it that. 4.969. Let's. Yeah, I feel I can do that because we can round that up to a 5. It's a perfect movie. It's great. We all, I mean, 4 out of 5 fucking doctors agree. Anyway, try trash. No, what a great review. What a great conversation. And y'all, ActionFest ends next week, and we're ending with a really solid trilogy, in my opinion. Probably the most complete and best trilogy we've ever gotten, especially since they made a 4th Matrix film, unfortunately. And it is the Dark Knight trilogy. And I'm very, very proud. I worked a little harder. I worked more heartily on this thumbnail than I did any other thumbnail in our career. Like, I'm proud of this one, actually. Like, I know it seems like I just found an image online, but I didn't. Like, I did some work on that one. So anyway, Dark Knight trilogy next week. We're going to be talking about Batman Begins, my second favorite superhero movie of all time, my first being Blade, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. I'm very excited for that. And we just announced Horror Fest. Look at that delicious lineup. 3 channels, 51 movies, 3 double features. Each channel has a double feature, 2 franchise reviews. Come on, y'all. It's great. 35 shows in total to cover 51 movies across 3 channels. It's the biggest, baddest, most bloodiest. It's the bloodiest and most transgressive and subversive horror fest we've done yet, and it's just going to get gnarlier. Jelani, thank you for being here. Final thoughts.
Yeah, dude. So glad to be here. Glad to talk about Blade. This is a fantastic film. If you haven't watched it, why the hell haven't you watched it? We do, videos over on another channel called Go Figure Reviews, Brooks and I. And this week we did Ghost Rider. The Gimme Catch Ghost Rider. Check that out. I'm thinking it's going to be one of my favorite figure vehicle sets of the year. It's just so cool that we got this. It took them like forever to make this figure. I mean, they did it for Toy Biz, and then they brought it back out for Hasbro. So check it out. We also had another video, which is the Batman White Knight that will be coming out very soon. I don't have the figure, but I had the freaking car. That thing is so clean. I'm planning to get all the McFarlane Batmobiles and just have a Batman car show. So check that video out. It's going to be coming out very soon.
Heck yeah, man. Thank you for being here. Go check out Go Figure Reviews. Will somebody please throw the link out in the chat? What about you, Brooks? Final thoughts?
Well, I got to go, man, because, I'm fighting the war on the dark side. I'm trying to make it over because I can't hide. I got to get back to the light side to save my people.
That's right. That's right, man. D2E, the chosen man, as the walls... Fuck, whatever. Anyway, Joe, thank you for being here. I appreciate your thoughts, as wrong as they may be at times. But what's coming up for you, man?
Well, on the thing I have coming up now is Kardak the Mystic #1 from Archie. It's available at comic shops August 14th. Let your comic shop know it was final order cut off today, but let them know anyway. Maybe they ordered extra and would be relieved if you asked them to put one aside for you. So, definitely do that. And then later that week, the 17th and 18th of August, I will be at FlameCon. I'm on a few panels, doing some signings. So, find me there.
Everybody go check that out and check out his previous work as well, including the recent tribute to Rachel Pollack for DC Pride. It's definitely worth it. So absolutely. Joe does great work, even though he's wrong about Blade, even though he likes Blade and thinks it's a really, really good movie. What about you, Steph? I appreciate you being here. What's coming up for you, my man?
Every Wednesdays, over at Dr. Doom's Fan Club with Brother Stu. A little show called Supreme Clientele, where we talk about comics new and old, and we will continue to do that this week at 9:30. Dr. Doom's Fan Club. Yeah. Final thoughts, I will say, I was going to leave it for you, Robbie, but I'll just go ahead and say, just remember there will always be some motherfuckers trying to ice skate uphill.
Fuck. Now I got to think of another thing to end the show with. As I do that, next week, the finale of ActionFest 2024 with the Dark Knight trilogy. Then we take a 2-week break, and then we lean right into HorrorFest 2024, the bloodiest, most transgressive HorrorFest we've ever had. It's going to be a ball. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be all of those things. For my final thoughts, fuck me. No, you suck on this.